I think that women really just want secure families, a hope for a future. They want freedom. And I think the ability to pursue the American dream. I think it's essentially what most women really want, and they feel protective of their families and their children, and they want the ability to make their lives as good as they possibly can. And I think that's probably the goal. If you ask most women today, that's probably their primary goal.
And a great wardrobe.
Right.
A great word and shoes. Yeah.
And a purse. I mean, if we're going to be honest.
And good coffee.
I think a lot of women too. I think that the media and the way things are, a lot of pressures are put on women to do everything, to be everything for everybody. And it's very difficult because when you're trying to raise a family and you're trying to make a living and you have a husband, or even if you're a single mom, it's really difficult for women because it's always in your face. They're always throwing into your face that you have to be everything to everybody. And I think women need to have a little bit of that pressure taken off, that it's okay to just be one thing. It's okay to be a mom. It's okay. If you want to work and you don't want to have a family, that's okay. So I think that women really want that kind of calmness. I think so, because that's what I want. And I want that calmness.
We don't want to be men either.
No,
and I think for a long time, for decades, they've been kind of wanting us to be more like men and be equal with men. I don't want to be a man. I don't want that kind. I want to be a woman. I don't want to. I want to wear my hair and wear makeup and be feminine. And I don't want to be told. I don't want to be pigeonholed, and it seems like for a long time they've been trying to put us in boxes. And it's bizarre because they try to say that they're giving us more when they're actually giving us less.
Well, they're trying to make us more masculine, and they're trying to make the men that we're supposed to marry and be attracted to and all of those things more feminine.
Exactly.
So another thing women really want is real men who act like men.
Hallelujah.
Who do man things, you know?
Yes.
And I think that's such an important part, and I think this next generation is in peril, frankly, especially the boys, because our culture has so emasculated men, and so men don't even understand what women want anymore, which is thus the book. They really don't. I'm so surprised that you're in the South and they're escorting you off of the curb. You're in LA or New York and they're afraid to open doors for you because they might get it thrown at them.
Exactly.
So those who were supposedly raising women up and called themselves feminists are really the ones who have done everything to take away what is most amazing about women and men and what we want.
Well, that's the thing. Men and women, no matter what it is, we're different. We come from different places.
And that's the beauty.
It is the beauty. And the meshing of that together makes a great relationship for people. And it makes a great place to raise children. Boys need to be masculine with their fathers, and little girls need to be feminine. There is nothing wrong with that. They're trying to mold us in such a different way now. They're trying to make everybody the same. If you look at fashion and you look at a lot of things that are being pushed, they're trying to do this androgynous look, and everybody's going to be the same. I don't want to live like that.
In California, our bathroom bill is
oh, yes,
a perfect example of that everyone, where there are no boys, there are no girls, everybody's just kind of whatever.
Yeah, I noticed yesterday in the restrooms in Washington, D.C., that they have the unisex bathrooms now in all of the airports, because we don't want to, this culture is trying to imply that we're not supposed to have a gender identity. Well, we are supposed to have a gender identity, and what you pointed to, Morgan, I think is so important. It's not about two of the same puzzle pieces fitting together. It's about puzzle pieces that fit together because they're different.
That's exactly
and that's
right.
where the real
exactly
beauty is and all of that. And so I think we just want to be different. We want to be women, and we want to know men that are real men, and that's where all the fun is to me.
But look, women have a strength, a special strength when they get behind a man. They don't have to be out there yes, a lot of women compete with men, but there's also that the woman that's behind the man, that's the support system, that really, that makes a relationship. It also, you can't change that. That's human nature, you know?
But can we talk turkey for a second and say a couple things that are just facts? Women don't compete in men's sports at the
Right.
same level, or
That's
even in the
right.
military,
That's
because they are not physically equipped. So women need to quit pretending and wanting what men have. It only illuminates some sort of inferiority, when indeed we're not inferior.
No,
we're different.
we're different.
We're equal in a different way,
That's
in a
right.
complementary way.
That's right.
And instead of trying to be men, we need to be the best women we can be.
We're not
That's right.
talking though about equal pay. If you're working the same job as a man, we should get the same pay as a
course.
man. That's a whole different thing. But what we're talking about is physical things and things that women can't do and don't have to do and shouldn't even try.
But
Right.
they try to peg us. They try to.
I don't want to lift stuff.
I know, but they try to put us into this little category and this little peg, you know, and they try.
Boxes.
That's what they try to do to us, and everybody, and I think it causes a lot of stress among men and women.
And look at where women have gotten ourselves now. Now we are in a position where you almost can't afford any longer to really stay home and raise children. You almost have to be in the workforce. So they've taken freedoms away in the name of claiming freedoms that we still don't really have in a lot of ways. And I think the whiny side of women, I want this, I want that, is so unappealing. It's unappealing even to other women.
Oh,
And-
definitely.
And so
Most
the way
definitely.
that the feminists approach this in that kind of whiny, contentious way was never the way to get what they really wanted. And the fact of the matter is, I don't think they really knew what they really wanted. I think they just were feeling whiny that day.
It's not about birth control. It's about abortion.
Yeah.
I mean, if we get right down
Yeah.
to what that actually is, what the real war on women is about. It's about abortion, and it's about the terror that they feel that we're going to just eliminate abortion forever, and they're trying to say that it's birth control, and but it's not.
It's so strange to me how, I mean, on the other side of us, we're more conservative, but on the other side, how they are selective when it comes to when it's a baby. When you want it and you're pregnant, when you want the baby, it's a baby. When you don't want it, it's a fetus or it's a non-entity. And that amazes me because it either is or it isn't. Don't be wishy-washy about it. Either you want a baby and you have a baby. You can't just decide, you know.
They were saying that about Chelsea Clinton, that that Hillary's gonna be a grandmother.
A grandmother, I know, and they're
Are you a
celebrating
grandmother
it, you
of
know.
a blob of
Right,
something
right.
in your daughter's belly.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and having done post-abortion counseling, I can tell you that the biggest lie is that abortion is ever a cure. You know, we are really exacting a holocaust on baby women. And where is the feminist outrage? Where's the feminist outrage on the whole Islamic situation? Where are
There
the women's
isn't.
rights there?
There isn't.
You know, and so that's where the incongruencies, if you really look for the truth in these messages, I think the incongruencies ultimately expose themselves with things like this. You know, if we care so much about women, why don't we care about baby women? Even just
women,
born
yeah.
women. You know, if we care so much about women, why do we hate Christian women, and yet the things that the Muslims are doing to women that are heinous are swept under the rug and excused away?
Sure.
I think this is where the illuminating truth really is, for intelligent women, going to define the way they think about what women really want. And I think that's what we really try to do in the book.
I think you're absolutely right. And we have become such a disposable society that now we're disposing of human life and without even giving it a second thought. And I think that if women, if they really think about it, even a lot of pro-abortion women, if they really sit down and think about it, is that what you really want? It's not disposable. Human life is not disposable. And, and then there's this whole thing about the death penalty. They're so against that. And yet they just have no problem aborting a child. So it makes no sense to me. It's just such a conundrum.
Well, it's interesting because one of the things that we talk about in our book is this whole affiliation. How do you become a conservative or a liberal, if that's the word you want to use? I prefer the word statist, but how do you become one or the other? And the thing about the statist mindset is that all it has is that bleeding heart component.
Sure.
It's a great
Sure.
big piece of what they believe, where if you look at conservatives, we're actually pretty balanced. We definitely have that compassion component, but we also have a value of tradition. We also have other responsibilities that we are thinking about when we're considering our political position. It's a very balanced, six-pronged ideology,
Right.
where the leftist mind really is only thinking about that guy's going to die, even though he killed people. All they're thinking about is the guy in the prison is going to die. They're not thinking about the people he killed.
The victims.
Yeah.
Right.
He had to
right.
suffer a little bit.
Yeah. So when the elite in Washington, D.C. decide to play on the sympathies, women tend to be more inclined emotionally. It's just what we are. God designed us that way so that we could be compassionate
Sure,
for our families,
sure.
and so that we could be helpmeets that work from our compassion and are motivated from that. And so when they speak to that emotional side, a lot of times women are caught in that trap
Sure.
and blinded by the realities that we've tried to spell out in our book.
For me personally, what I want the most in life is for my future grandchildren to have the kind of life, decency and goodness that I grew up with. And the path we're on right now, it's not going to happen. I'm really worried about my future generation, my son's children. And right now he doesn't want to have children because he understands the world that they would be brought into.
A lot of the millennials feel like that. They really do.
Yeah.
I feel I have two, and I feel very
Same age
sad.
as mine.
That's right. I feel very sad for them because they're looking at a future that is not very promising. They're looking at a future that possibly they're not going to have as good a life as their parents. And they see it. They see it happening. And I mean, I totally sympathize with them. I really do. And I feel bad because I want to light a fire under women. I really do.
Yeah.
I hope our book lights a fire under women and they start saying, you know what, we are not going to allow this to happen in our schools, and we are not going to allow this to continue in our culture, because our culture right now is a sewer. It is.
It is.
It is a sewer, and it's going down, and I've seen it. I've seen it disintegrate over the decades in Hollywood. And I'm telling you, if women do not stand up and say, enough is enough, we're not dealing with this anymore, but they have to take control. And I hope that our book will motivate women, because that's what you do, that's what you do. We're out there every day to motivate women to say, enough is enough. And we're making it easier for them, I think, because we're giving them some talking points, things to say to their neighbors, to get a conversation started, because once we get a conversation started, that causes people to think, other women start to think, then you feel like you're in a group and you're going, you know something, we can make a difference. I'm not alone, because we're not alone out there. There are millions of us that feel the same way. I mean, the whole thing with women is that, like for me in Hollywood, I had a long career and I stayed quiet because I knew that there was the possibility that I would get fired in liberal Hollywood, and I needed the work, and so I shut my mouth, didn't say anything, didn't cause waves. Well, you know what? You get to a point in your life when you say enough is enough. And I think many, many women are at that point now where you start to take a stand and you just say, okay, it doesn't matter anymore. That's not important. This is important. And you have to engage, and you have to start talking to people, and you have to start. I'll tell you the truth. The other side, they have these smaller groups of people. If you think about it, a lot of these groups are minority groups. They really are. They're small groups, but they make a lot of noise.
Oh, yeah.
And they get a lot done.
They have the microphone.
They do. They have the microphone.
media.
They have the media. But for us, if we start doing that, and we start making noise and saying, this is not acceptable, we are not going to do this, it will make a difference. It really will. I'll tell you, I don't think it's a bad idea to go into Hollywood, actually, because if you have the right mindset, you can make a change in Hollywood.
Infiltrate.
You can start writing values-based scripts. You can demand, that you're producing, directing, whatever it may be, and do it in a conservative way. I mean, I think young people within the industry now that I see, they're taking a whole different stand. A lot of them are saying, I'm not going to do nudity, I'm not going to do sex scenes. If more bigger name people would stand up against it, what are they going to do? What are they going to do?
It's interesting because, I was one of those that had to confront this whole demon of, am I willing to engage the culture? When I moved to California and got the offer to do a reality show, and I thought, why would anybody do that? And then I realized that that's the only way.
It is the only way.
It's the only way because culture, as we talked about, is upstream of politics, and it is leading, and women can have such a major role in that, as mentioned, by letting our children take part in cultural things. Putting my children on national television on a reality show that I knew was not going to paint an accurate picture was a very scary prospect.
Oh, yes.
But ultimately, the conversions that happened, that I mentioned in the book, the conversions that happened because of that are amazing. And still to this day, when we go on the shows that are the more controversial, we've all done them. We've all done them.
Sure.
That aren't respectful of our conservative views. Those are the shows that I get the best fan mail from, saying things like, you changed my mind. I thought conservatives looked like this, talked like this, acted like this, and it turns out conservatives, you are not at all what Chris Matthews told me a conservative was.
That's right.
So that's why we do need to be out there. And I think one of the really exciting things that is happening is that a lot of conservatives are, my daughter included, she's decided culture is it, and she's in Hollywood, and she wants to make movies that have that positive message. We know they sell.
Absolutely,
So
they
it's just
sell.
a matter of getting the network started and changing Hollywood. And Morgan, you were witness to Hollywood really transforming from
absolutely.
really wholesome and good to what it is today.
Yes.
And it can transform back. You look back, Deborah, Esther, I mean, we can go through the list of names of women who have really revolutionized culture. And that's the point of this book.
And so many of our politics writers too. I mean, these women they'd never done anything in their lives politically.
Yeah.
And it's so funny how when you just give them a little nurturing and you give them a little encouragement and say, you can do this, even in your little tiny small town in Mississippi. Our Mississippi politic, Lydia Goodman, she's been shunned by her friends in her small town because she's conservative. They're conservative too, but they don't want to hear about it. They don't believe that the things that they don't believe that the things that are happening in California and New York could actually affect them someday. So they're not even voting. And that's the problem. I think we're missing a big chunk of women in the middle of the United States that don't think that they're going to be affected by this cancer that is moving toward them every single moment.
Well, it's nice to stick your head into the sand, but one of the stories that I talk about in the book as well is a Holocaust survivor whose mother stuck her head in the sand and then had to answer to her child in a concentration camp. I mean, the bottom line is people want to believe that there's something really different about our country, that we could never fall to tyranny. When so many cultures believe that and then fell to tyranny. I don't know what we think makes us different. We won't even call ourselves exceptional, but we don't think that's ever going to happen here. It is happening here.
It is.
We are losing our rights every single day as mothers, as women, as American citizens. And I would just ask this one thing. I think this is the critical question that our book asks. There's so much noise. There's so much noise. I would ask women to just shut it off and think for themselves for a moment about the rational truth of the path that we're on, the path that they're on, the path that they're forging for their children. Just to take time and just go, what is the real truth here? Because we're believing so many lies. I have a friend who, a good friend of mine, one of my best friends growing up, and I saw on her Facebook page that she was taking all her kids to see Miley Cyrus, and I thought, wow. Now I'll listen to Miley's song. I'm not like
recently.
Yeah, yes.
Oh.
And I'm not one of those who's like, turn it off. I'm not like that. I mean, I think we live in this world. We need to be in the world, not of it. But I can't imagine making that decision to take my children, especially my young daughters, to see that. And even though I don't think it's a matter of her thinking about it long term. I think that's what most of us do. We don't want to deal with it, and there's so much noise, and politics is ugly, and it's for dirty people. Well, I think we're kind of here to say, you know what? We're not those ugly, dirty people. We really are just people who love our families and our children, and we want other women to wake up to that same reality. And you two have the coolest stories of real conversion stories that are in the book that I think make it even more human and more real. I mean, I've kind of always believed what I believe, but you had your light bulb moments that are so many women will identify with.
I understand both sides. I really do. I have a real understanding because I was on that other side. I understand this utopian dream. I get it. I understand why they want to believe that this can be a perfect world. Who doesn't want that?
Right. But it's
yeah,
not possible.
It's not possible.
And the amazing thing to me is I think that our book poses, it isn't so much what women really want. I want women to take away from it. I want them to sit down and say, what do I really want? What do I really want? And whether it may be, I'm going to concentrate on my family, I'm going to concentrate on political things, getting this country back, whatever it may be, each woman has to say to herself, what do I really want? So it's kind of a guiding thing. But you know what, we were talking about your transformation, because you were more of a Democrat at one point.
I was.
Listen,
I took. I hate to say this. Every time I say this, I feel like I'm doing a lashing. I'm confessing. What's it called when
Oh yeah, you're just. I know what you're doing.
Those
yes,
things that you hit your back with?
yes.
I feel like I'm doing that. But I was my first year in college. I took Reagan signs down and put Jimmy Carter signs up. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I did. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but look, and we're not saying it's going to be easy to do this.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy
it's
because
much harder. Don't you think it's much harder to be us?
It is way harder because you're going to probably lose friends. You're going to probably be chastised for what you believe and what you say, and they're going to come down hard on you. But you know what? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
True.
Right? And so I think every woman that takes a stand is going to feel so much better about herself, because I know that since I've made my transition and decided to stand up and be one of the Hollywood people that say, I am a conservative, and I am a proud conservative, and I love this country, and I support the military, and I'm for the Bill of Rights, and I stand up for that. Yes, I take a lot of flack for it, but you know what? Inside and deep down inside, I feel so much better about myself.
Yeah,
I really do.
It's the whole transparent, authentic living kind of thing.
Yes.
And I think the other really nice thing is that when you're this honest with yourself, when you have that quiet moment where you ask, what do I really want, that you talked about, I think once you figure that out and you determine your life course based on truth, then forever, you don't have to, I love that saying, act justly and fear no man. If you do what you know is right, and you stop living a lie, and you stop sticking your head in the sand like an ostrich, then I think you come to a point where everything you do feels better.
It does.
Because it's real.
It's freeing.
It's a form of liberty.
It is a form of liberty.
What tolerance really is, because
yes,
nothing tolerant about the left.
That's such a
And
great
they throw
point.
that at us
It
all
is.
the time, that we're the big
We're
closed-minded,
intolerant,
intolerant people.
right.
We can be whatever we want to be, but when you don't toe the line 100% on the left, you are shunned, you are Stacey
right.
dashed, you are.
They will
you are
shut
just
you
torn to
down.
shreds. Yeah.
They will shut
yeah.
you down.
Yep.
If you don't agree with everything in lockstep with them, they will shut you down.
Even
Yeah.
Kermit Gosnell, people that were speaking out on the left against Kermit Gosnell, you know, serial killer, they were shunned. They were told to shut up.
Sure.
How can you there's nothing tolerant. For me, I think that the Donald Sterling thing is so key and so crucial, because how many people have said something stupid in private? I mean, we may not say anything, you know, as racist and crazy as him, but we've all said crazy, stupid things. Where are we gonna be in 2 years from now, when people start recording everyone's conversations? And are we going to be in jail? I mean, what's going on with our First
Well,
Amendment
that's
right?
their ultimate
when
goal,
an idiot
yes.
like him can be, as Tamara said before, he's like being extorted. I mean, they're trying to get money from him for being an idiot.
But they fear us because
Yeah.
we're telling the truth, and they fear that. So what do they want to do? The first thing they want to do is shut us down,
Right.
silence our voices, make sure that we're not heard. I mean, it's textbook. It's so easy to figure out. But you look at it, they want to demonize us, they want to take away our religion, they want to take everything from us. But you know, I mean, it's crazy. It's becoming a crazy world. And now they're not even hiding it anymore. They used to hide it and do it kind of subversively.
Right.
Now they're just right out there in the open. Oh, we want to pass this act where we're going to shut down these voices because we don't like what they're saying.
But you know why? Because when the internet came around and when Fox News came around, they had 100% the full use
Absolutely,
of the media
absolutely.
for decades and decades. And then we all came along and started speaking out. And now they want to shut down Fox News. They want to shut down the internet. They want to do whatever they can to silence us again, because we were the stupid silent majority for so long.
Yeah.
That's what
very true.
killed
It's
us.
very, I mean, it's textbook, you said it. It's Cloward Pivens, it's Saul
Yep.
Alinsky.
Yep.
These are old tactics
right.
used a different day. That's exactly what they are. But women need to familiarize themselves. They need to make sure that they understand. You don't have to know the whole Cloward Pivens theory to understand that they're being manipulated and it's very intentional.
Oh, very
You don't have to
much
understand
so.
all of Saul Alinsky's tactics to understand that there is a theory that says that if you do these things, you know, you isolate one person and you attack, and then everybody goes, I don't want to be that person, so all of
Right,
a sudden now,
right.
nobody will do whatever that was, you know, and they keep doing this to us over and over again, and as a
On
result,
both sides.
yes,
the
on
right
both
side
sides.
doing the
on
same.
both
It's
sides.
the
That's
elite
true. That's
power
right.
brokers. That's what we have to realize. This really isn't a partisan issue. We use the terms liberal and conservative, and they always concern me because I think it's dangerous to do that. We're trying to use general descriptors, and I get that. But really, this is about the elite, the people with the power and money in this
That's
country
right. That's
who want to
right.
maintain that same power and money. And that's why, you know, you have Republicans out there saying, well, why doesn't leadership do anything about this awful bill or that awful bill or this terrible injustice? Well, the reason is because they aren't willing to take on their buddies in the elite on the Democrat side.
That's right.
So it's not, you can't put all the blame at the feet of either party. This really is about elitism at its very worst, imperialism as flagrantly as we've ever seen it.
Oh, yeah.
Totalitarianism, I hate to even
yeah.
use the word, but it's absolutely,
what it is.
it's accurate.
And
Yeah.
one of the things that really, really annoys me with the elites and these powers that be, or so to speak, is they demean women. They think that all we care about is birth control or what, I mean, just not, they don't give us any credit. They demean women in a way, and they look down on women. And we women, and all the women in this country, need to stand up and go, whoa, you don't understand.
Yeah.
We do care about other things, but they don't think we do. It's like pat you on the head and, oh, we'll give you your birth control. Oh, we'll give you
They do
whatever
think
it
we're
is.
stupid.
They do think we're stupid, and if you think about that video, The Life of Julia, or whatever it is, cradle to grave entitlements,
Yeah.
where we'll take care of you, we're daddy, we'll make sure that everything's okay. Women stand up and say, this is ridiculous.
And there were no men involved in that video. at all. They were unnecessary because government is daddy.
If anything, on women on in both sides of the aisle should stand up and say, this is ridiculous. We're not going to do this.
Well, they do want you stupid. I mean, they do, and Marx called it useful idiots, and it's true. I mean, you are very useful if you will be the woman who doesn't want to think about politics, thinks politics is dirty.
Just stay where you are.
Hide your head under the blankets and hope it all goes away, and enjoy your 3-bedroom, 2-bath with your 2.5 kids and your little white picket fence. That's what they want to sell you.
That's
that you're going to have all that, and you can live this happy little carefree life. But the reality is that is crumbling quickly, and that to do so is so extremely selfish for women because they're taking those same hopes and dreams away from their children and their grandchildren. So that's what's so scary about the way that
that's
the world
why there
is going.
that's why there has to be a shift. There really does. There has to be a mind shift among women, and I think there is. I really think there is, because the more people that I talk to, the more people on Politichicks, the writers, people that are voicing their feelings, I really do. I see a tide. The tide is turning.
Most of the Tea Party movement was started by women, right? You were one of the original founders. I mean, it's this. Sarah Palin was right. It's the Mama Grizzly thing. For me, I never wanted to do politics. Ugh, I never, ever. Y'all probably did.
Yeah.
I didn't. I never wanted to.
I didn't. No. I grew up in the capital city and I couldn't wait to get out. I went to college, met John, and he took me back when he ran for office. I'm like,
I know.
But most women I know never were involved and never wanted to be, but they know that they have to now. And for me, it was every maternal instinct I've ever had in my life came forward, and I feel maternal. This is my home and my country that's being attacked.
Yes.
And not doing anything isn't an option.
No.
And I love that we're trying to get women involved and realize, make them understand this is personal. This is about your personal family and your future generations, your children.
Yeah, and it's not that we're preaching to women and telling them what to do. We're not doing that.
No.
All we're doing is telling our stories and how we've evolved into who we are and what we see coming down the road.
Well, it's an invitation.
It is.
It's an invitation.
Join us.
Join us.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's I think ultimately what our book is an invitation for women to find their voice.
Yes.
To look at the truth. And to be honest with themselves.
And to not be afraid. What's going to happen when you speak out? And it is scary. When you're not, our side is not usually confrontational.
Right, exactly.
We don't like confrontation. We don't like debate.
Right.
We like to just say, okay,
sure,
that's your opinion. Goodbye. But we need to let them know that as long as you know what you're talking about, you're fine. You just go ahead and state your opinion.
And even if you don't know, if you're learning, there's so much room for that, don't you think?
Oh,
like, you
absolutely.
know, most of the people that I know, the women that I know that have gotten involved and found their voice in politics over the last couple of years, you know, they'll pick one issue. Maybe it's Common Core.
Right.
Maybe it's, maybe it's abortion. Maybe it's, maybe it's the economy. Maybe they've really felt the impact of that on their family. Whatever it is. And that's the reason that wake up moment
that catapulted them.
And so they have come to the political world in that, and maybe they don't even understand some of the minutia, and that's okay.
It is okay.
No.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
But like last night when in the cab.
Oh, I know.
Dear Lord, you do have to pick and choose your battles. When I was in the cab last night, and it was, this man was from Afghanistan, and he was so angry. I mean, so angry. And I told him I was in, working in politics, and he was like, I hate America, and he just went nuts. And was telling me about he literally is going to move to Afghanistan to be in Congress. Okay. And was talking about how evil the Zionists in Israel are, and just, it was spooky. But you don't. And he was in a car. He was driving me. In a potential weapon of mass
destruction. And you were a captive in the car.
You don't like Israel. All right.
Well, I found a really good way to deal with when you're talking to somebody who has a differing opinion of you or is very strong in their beliefs or they're very confrontational. I have a son like that. We have a dialogue. I open the dialogue and I open the conversation and I ask them questions, and I will say, why do you believe that? Or explain it to me. Why do you feel the way you do? I don't want to attack them. They attack us. They come after us. But I don't want to be that way. I want to be the woman who sits there and says, explain to me. I want to know, how did you come to be who you are and believe this? And a lot of times they don't have an answer. A lot of times it's talking points. It's what they've heard. They don't have a core belief, really. It's just kind of their following. And I find that out. And you know something? When you have a dialogue like that, you can bring people around to actually think and say, you know, maybe I should rethink this. Or maybe I should, I mean, seriously, you bring up things to them. You bring up facts to them. And now there's many people who just don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it, and it's their way, and that's all it is. But it's that one person that you may find, that one person that you might get to in a conversation.
I always think of Moses and how frustrating he must have been, because he freed all these slaves, and they saw the most amazing miracles in the history of in all of the Bible, and they saw the Red Sea part, and then as soon as he goes up that mountain, it's like they go nuts again. They just forgot everything. And it's like, and he still said, comes with God's writing in his arms, and he's like, okay, and some of them still stayed down there, and then it was like,
Yeah.
and so we can't save everybody.
No, we can't.
You have to remember that.
But it's one at a time.
Yes.
It is. It's one at a time. And it's like I have one of my best friends is a very, she's a very hardcore liberal. But you know what? We love each other. We respect each other. There's no reason why we can't. And yet, I think a lot of times I'm attacked. And I know you guys are as well. You just get attacked and go, whoa, where's the anger? Where's the hate coming from, you guys? We're not the haters.
No.
You know, we're not the attackers. And I think that's where we have a lot of strength.
Well, and I think you're right that I think ultimately when people start to feel insecure in their position is when they attack. I mean, you don't attack unless you feel threatened.
Right.
So all of the horrible things you hear all the time about conservatives, about Tea Partiers, about Christians, all those things, it's because something's percolating
That's
in the
right.
back of that brain.
Yes, that's
That
right.
person is feeling defensive and they're not wanting to make that change. Change is upsetting.
Sure.
And
sure.
so I think one of the things that I think is so much fun about this project that we've done together is that we get to take those people with that percolating brain who are starting to see truth illuminated, because truth is self-evident, never forget that. And we're getting to say, hey, we just want to welcome you in. We just want to invite you to our party. And really, one of the really great things, one of the stereotypes I love breaking with you is that conservative women are these, I don't know, buttoned up, no fun having, kind of frozen, kind of boring, kind of stay home all the time, just maybe go to church and take a casserole kind of people.
Right.
I've been known to take a casserole to church, but I will say that that's not who we are.
No.
And I'm really tired of Rachel Maddow and the rest of them painting conservative women into a corner where we don't belong. And I think the most excited I get is when I hear from women who've jumped on our bandwagon and are joining us in our plight for our children's future, and they say, wow, you guys are a blast. That's what I love. And I want them to know that conservative women, we have fun.
And we can jump into fountains, right?
And we do the fountains.
We do.
It's expected.
We do.
Yes.
But I want to expand on what you said earlier too about liberals. When you get to a certain point, because my husband has always been Republican, and so during the Clinton years, I was defending Bill Clinton to him all the time, and when he would start talking sense, it was like what you just said. It's like something in the back of my mind was like, abort, say something like that. And then I would say something like, I hate that shirt. You look so stupid. You are such a dork today.
Yeah,
I
attack
would
the person.
personally insult him because I didn't have an answer.
Didn't know what to say.
Or the other thing they do is the ad hominem, where they'll come at you and they'll say, well, you guys just want to put women back into the 1700s in the cave. Yeah. And so they'll, instead of like addressing, well, okay, maybe Bill Clinton shouldn't be using women like toilet paper, they'll say something and attack you on a different item.
Sure.
That's another favorite of them. And so when they start doing that, you can have that little moment where you go, okay, they are saying horrible things about me, but I really don't have scales, and I think I just got to them, and when you live that authentic truth, there is so much power, so much personal power in that you
There
don't
is.
have to live in fear. You know, there's this thing in psychology, which of course is my background, called imposter syndrome. And it is the fear of being found out. But the
Very
really cool
interesting.
thing is, for women and men who are watching this right now and who are reading our book, if you want that authentic truth in your life where you don't have to be worried about being attacked or even about not having enough information, you can grab onto that right now. I feel like I'm making an altar call. You can grab onto that right now. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
But you can. And forever, for the rest of your life, say, that is the moment where I started not lying to myself anymore, not letting other people tell me lies, and not believing what is untrue that is self-evident. And it changes everything. It changes everything, and it gives you a direction. I think a lot of people, they get in that place in their life, they're like, I just don't know what I really want, but I really want to do something great with my life.
That's right.
This is what you can do. This is getting on board and saving this country and really this world
That's it.
from the destruction that is inevitable if more people don't get involved. That's heroic, and it's cool.
One thing I want people to consider on both sides is, what if everything that were happening now with the Democrat Party, what if it was Republican? And just hold a mirror up to that and say, how would you feel if it was us doing this? If it was us with Benghazi, if it was us with Fast and Furious, and if it was us, if we took all your guns and all of a sudden
Or
this
targeted you.
government
targeted you.
targeted you with your IRS, and we need to just keep reminding them, what if this was you? How would you feel? Would you be threatened?
Where's the
Because we are.
compassion?
Where's the compassion for us?
And where's
There
the
is none.
tolerance?
Right.
Yeah.
There is none.
I think one of the things that's so important, people always, they understand the concept. People are coming, I think, to terms with the concept that, what we see in our movies and in Hollywood really does become the morals of our country.
You bet.
But the part that they don't understand is that you have to have, inherent in that argument is you have to have some sort of moral schema. It can't be moral relativism.
Right.
It can't be just what you think today and what you think tomorrow and what I
Right,
think the next
right.
day. It really has to be based on something. So then, where does that come from? Where does morality really come from? The bottom line, you can't have it unless you have some sort of constitution. I mean that in the general sense, not the United States Constitution, but some sort of constitution, some sort of outline. We have that in this country, and that's what makes us unique. And I always think people who don't like it, I don't understand why they don't go live somewhere
Yeah,
else. I really don't get that.
exactly.
But I asked my cabbie that last night.
Yeah,
and it made
It's
him
like, why are you here? Yeah.
Why are you here?
Why are
Well,
you
They're
here?
saving up money to go back to Afghanistan to run for
Oh,
Congress.
but he comes here to make the money.
Yes.
Yes.
See,
I
and I believe to convolute our country. I mean, to pollute our country, to literally come in and make it what they want. So then you ask yourself, if that's the reason someone's here, are they not playing God? Are they not considering themselves little
Oh,
gods?
that's who they think they are. Yes.
And so for those who reject the notion of God and faith in our country, who do they want to be God? Because you have to ask that, because there is
right.
always someone is going to lord. There's always going to be some. It's the natural condition of humankind. And so who gets to name those morals? If it's not God, it's you or the cab driver or whoever.
Right.
It's always going to be someone's. My husband always liked to say, when he was in the Senate, he liked to say, name a law that isn't based on someone's perception of morality. You can't
Right.
name one.
No,
Name one.
no.
Doesn't matter. Speeding. I mean, it doesn't matter
It
what law
doesn't
you take.
matter.
It's
Right,
someone's perception of morality. So the question is then, whose perception of morality? And I would submit, and I think our book submits, that if you do take the godly heritage of this country, it is unique, it is exceptional, and it does work. And that's
right.
why our founding fathers risked so much to give it to us and to maintain it for us. And that's why it's incumbent upon us to maintain that tradition.
I don't care what they try to push on us. I don't care what the media tries to shove down our throats in the way of movies and trying to take down our religious rights and Christmas, and you can't say this and you can't do this and you can't have a nativity scene and whatever it is that they want to do. I am a believer that most of the American people have core values. They have a belief. They have a foundation. And I think that's what makes America America. And that's what makes this country so great. Right now, we are being pushed and prodded and sent to the edge right now by the elites that are trying to manipulate us into believing something we don't want to believe. And we're fighting back, we're pushing back. You can see it. You can see it in little ways, but not enough, because they have a lot of power. They do. And they will destroy, see, their big fear is religion and morality and values. And what do? They come after us if we speak about things like that. They will chastise us and criticize us, but we cannot back away. Just like you said, we have to stand up and we have to take a stand, and because that's what we were founded on. That's what our founders risked everything for.
Exactly.
Well, and it's that line between right and wrong.
It is,
they're trying
but there
to
is no
erase.
right and wrong anymore.
isn't. They've
Bad
erased it.
behavior is being
Yeah.
rewarded. The worse you are, the worse things you do, you're going to be rewarded. What do you guys want to bet? Lois Lerner of the IRS is already making a book deal.
Of course.
What do
Why
you
wouldn't she?
want to bet? And probably being held in contempt of Congress will make her price rise even more. This is the problem we have. This is what our children are seeing. They are seeing that bad behavior is getting rewarded in reality shows, in doing things that are decadent and horrible, and there's no pushback. There's nobody saying, that's why it's going to take mothers and it's going to take families, strong families, to tell their children, this is unacceptable. You don't want to do that.
Well, Abraham Maslow, of course, the theorist who is behind the whole self-actualization theory, that says, that you can become your perfect self, your identity of self. The problem is that as created beings, everything in our soul cries out to serve our Creator. So when we serve ourselves, even if we get to that Maslowian self-actualization part of life, and everybody's getting a trophy now, we might as well just make winning illegal, because we're not supposed to win. You're not supposed to be rich.
You're not supposed to be
You're
any
not supposed
better.
to be any
No,
better in
no,
any way.
no.
Everybody should be equal. Folks, that's communism,
Yeah.
frankly. And there's always someone at the helm. You take North Korea, for example. You have that dynasty there who is always going to be in control of North Korea as long as people are kept equal. So if that's the goal, I'm really not in for that for America.
Me either.
And the problem is that we're going to come up empty again and again when we're only looking at self, how can we fulfill ourselves, the self-esteem movement, the everybody gets a trophy movement. It doesn't even matter. This is going on in our schools, it's going on in our culture. And the fact of the matter is, sadly, a lot of parents are falling for this as a way to, don't punish your children, just tell them how good they are all the time. You end up with a bunch of spoiled brats who expect to get things for nothing, and then they're growing up and they're realizing that that is not life. That's not the way life works.
And that's what's happening, I think, with a lot of the millennials, is that they've grown up believing that, this narcissistic world, that they're the center of the universe,
Right.
and they're perfect, and they can do anything they want to do, and they're going to go out into the world and they're going to make millions of dollars and be famous and this and that. Well, guess what? Nobody prepared them for the real world.
Right.
Nobody has prepared these kids to go out and say, whoa, there is rejection. There is somebody better than me. I've got to try harder. But they've taken that away. Gina, they've taken it away. They've taken trying to succeed and be better because they're making you feel guilty if you do. This is where we have to stand up and say something.
I was in the airport yesterday, and there was this little, just monster brat child, probably 2, and running around, and the mother. I was sitting next to an older woman, and the mother kept saying, "Now I understand why you're mad. You're so tired. Tell me your feelings about this.
Oh, boy.
Now, I see you're frustrated.
Oh,
Talk it out." And this kid is just screaming bloody murder. The woman and I, we both were like, my mother would have had to just look at me, and
That's
I
right.
would have shut up.
Oh, I've confronted women in Walmart. I cannot stand that. Because this is the thing. They're hurting their child.
Yes.
Like what they don't get is this promise. And Hollywood has sold us this. Once again, this is cultural. Hollywood has sold us this idea that it really isn't about being the best at what you do and working hard to get there. That's not the person we admire. In fact, that's the man. That's the man we want to take down, right? And so Hollywood has taught us that. And what is really admirable is to go make a sex tape and get money for nothing.
Absolutely.
And to get famous for absolutely nothing. Or to expose a personal conversation with your lover, one of many, I guess, who said something in private.
And ruin them.
Ruin them.
And
take
take
lots
everything
of
away from
money
them.
and get lots of Bentleys and lots of Range Rovers and all those great things for doing that. That's the message that is coming. That's the
right.
message that mothers who are copping out on their responsibility in this culture right now, that's the message. It's not about the rap music. It's not about Miley Cyrus. It's not about the twerking. It's really not about that. It's really about the message that we're giving our kids. It's not because we're prudes that we're saying this. It's because our kids are buying a lie that they're going to get something for nothing, for merely existing. And the world
Snooki is proof of that, and all
exactly.
the reality shows.
Yeah,
And the world is going to whack that child upside the head.
Absolutely.
And they're going to turn to drugs, and they're going to turn to crime, and they're going to have a dead-end life. That child in the airport that you saw yesterday, I can absolutely psychologically tell you that child is on a dead-end course with disaster.
Yeah.
She's
The
learned
mother's
she's
doing
already
nothing
learning
for
how
them.
to manipulate, and the mother thinks she can bargain with a 2-year-old. I think timeout is one of the things that's killed our culture.
Well, listen.
All I had to do was hear the drawer open in my house where the
And you
paddle
knew.
was kept, and my sister and I were frozen with fear.
Yeah.
And it was just a little, not a ping pong ball, you know those balls with a string. We were so
Oh, yeah,
stupid.
oh, yeah, the
Every
little
time
paddle.
the ball
Sure,
would break,
sure.
we would still go out and buy another one, but that's what they would use as paddles. And I'm like, we still kept buying them. But anyway, yeah, that was all it took. Just the sound of that was enough.
Well, sure,
to scare
because
us,
you
and
had
it was
respect.
good, though.
You
It
had
never
respect,
hurt.
too.
Yeah,
I know.
But it never hurts.
No.
I'm not scared.
And here's how upside down the world is, you guys. When Snooki can go to Rutgers University and make $35,000 to give a speech, but Condoleezza Rice can't.
Oh my God.
Okay?
Yep.
This is where we've come. And
Why isn't
people
that racist, Morgan?
Yeah.
Why isn't it racist? She's a historical person in America.
with a wonderful
Black
story.
woman.
A wonderful
why was
story.
why aren't we crying racist on them for that? That's what they would do to us.
Sure they would.
It's
Sure they
because
would.
they're racist that they didn't want her, because they let Hillary come there. She's white, and she
And
also
she was
voted for the Iraq War.
also, and I mean, think of all the
Yeah.
people that they have there.
I know.
You know, so.
Racists.
But the world is upside down. It's
It is.
completely upside down. We've got to write it, and we've got to get it. But you know, another thing you were talking about, we shouldn't hide our children and shield them from the evils in the world. We shouldn't. If the rap, like you said, the rap music and the videos, but what we need to do as parents is we need to counteract it. And we need to sit down and we need to say, this is not right. This is not acceptable. You don't want to be that. You don't want to look at that person as a role model. And I've seen that shift. And now it's like there's not enough interaction between kids and they're being glorified. Seriously, in California, and I do not exaggerate, this is California, and it's driving me crazy because I got to get out of there. There was a woman in the grocery store, and she was the typical, you know, with, I'm sorry to say it, but she had the implants and the tight T-shirt, and the T-shirt said "ho" on it. Okay, her little girl had the exact same T-shirt,
What?
and it said "baby ho."
Oh my gosh.
Okay, baby ho. And I thought, this is unbelievable. And I went up to the lady, the checkout lady, you know, and I said, you got to see this. I said, should we say something? I mean, really, should we say something? And most people were just shaking their heads like, this is insane.
Wow.
But,
But
this
who are we to
is
judge?
how
Why are you
far.
judging them?
Yeah, why am I judging them?
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
But it's just not acceptable. But if I had my daughter there or she was little, I would say this is wrong in every way.
Mm-hmm.
You vote them out. You get rid of them. You don't accept it anymore.
The thing that worries me, though, about that with our vote, so many people are discouraged because our votes
They don't
we
seem
know
to
about
matter.
Catherine Engelbrecht and
Yeah.
True the Vote, and we're hearing about all this corruption and that the voting system is and especially with voter ID.
Yeah.
In California, as y'all know, we're not allowed to show ID at all. I mean, they're so discouraged.
Oh,
and
I
they
know
don't
they
believe
are.
their vote counts, and they don't believe even if they do vote that it will count, literally.
But when
It's frustrating.
when we have politicians that flat out just lie to us on every issue, stand up in front of the American people and just tell lie after lie after lie, the American people are tuning it out. They're turning it off and saying, I don't even listen to these people anymore. Well, that's a mistake.
Yeah, it is.
Because you have to listen to these people and you have to just keep hammering home the fact that they're not telling you the truth. And when it hits, I noticed that with Obamacare, when it started hitting people in the pocketbook, they're going, okay,
Yeah, wait a second.
okay, wait a minute, what's
But you
going
know,
on?
most of it, Morgan, is so insidious. We don't even realize the cost of food has gone up. So,
Oh, sure.
but it's
But there's
also
no
gradual. right. But it's also gradual that a lot of times I think we don't notice it. The amount of people paying taxes now pales in comparison to the amount of people taking money from taxpayers.
Sure.
They've done a great job of vilifying the man, the rich guy out there, who's some figurative guy that I don't think really exists.
Who employs people.
Who, by the way, employs people.
But
Yes.
Yes, there you go.
Monsters.
And so ultimately, again, it's about people taking pause and saying, wait, does this really make sense? Like, how evil is some guy to be rich if he owns a big company and gives lots and lots of jobs?
That's right. That's
And
right.
I think each of us are in a position where we would be hiring more people if we weren't so encumbered by the tax system and the
regulations and
regulations.
everything.
So I mean, each of us could be employing a few more people than we are,
Sure.
if the situation were different. And so we've got to stop buying their lies, because this really isn't about the rich guy, the super rich guy, the Rockefeller guy. He's always going to be rich,
Of course.
because he's going to
Of
participate in
course.
things that none of us even have access to. But for the real man on the street who's built his company, maybe to a really super successful level, we need to esteem that again. We need to teach our children, hey, why don't you go to work one day and shadow this person? Why don't you see what they do that's different? Why don't you see whether the success fell in their lap because they did a sex tape and thought it was cute?
Yeah,
Or why don't
yeah.
you see if they worked really, really, really hard?
Well, I want to ask you, how many hospitals or museums or big schools have the Kardashians built? How many have they built? And I think they made $165
they're
million
opening
this year, but yet you have huge men and women who have made successes in their lives, and they build hospitals and wings for who? For the American people that can't really afford it,
Right.
They're the ones who, Carnegie Hall, and they're the ones that have their names on cancer wards and helping the American people.
Right.
But what? They're demonized for that? They're demonized for that,
They
for
like
what they're
rich people
giving?
as long as they're on the left.
Well,
they
sure.
love rich people.
Sure.
They love George Soros. They love all the celebrities who despise us, and those guys are multimillionaires. They're fine with rich. It's just
Well, look at this guy that's
which
going to...
side of the political fence are you on? They like rich.
What is he going to do, this guy who's going to give $100 million to the Democrat campaign for, he's an environmentalist, he's stopping the Keystone Pipeline, right? What about him? Oh, he's
doesn't matter.
held up as,
And again, it's one of those things where I think most people, they just think they think only as far as the news media gives them to think.
Sure,
And
sure.
then they stop thinking. And so thinking through to its end, they say, oh, the sequesters are the most horrible thing that happened. Even the Republican elite went along with, oh, this is so
Yeah,
horrible.
yeah.
Well, you know what? Really, to save money, families cut budgets.
They have to.
And maybe they stopped buying the 3-ply toilet paper, and now they're, I don't know why I keep going to toilets, but, and now they're only buying the 1-ply or whatever. You make those things. You don't sit around and focus about, oh my
Right.
gosh, we only have 1-ply toilet paper. Oh my
No, I
gosh.
know, I
You
know.
say, oh, you know what? We will be able to take a little vacation this year. Or
That's right.
You look at that, and that's where people have to think these things through to their end. When you talk about hospitals and you talk about charity, it is not the job of government to
No,
do those things for
no.
people. It never has been.
No.
And as a result, we've given government so much power. Every single time the government comes and takes another penny from you, they are taking your power. And that's what people need to understand in this country. The government isn't our big charity filter.
no.
It isn't.
But it's becoming
It's an
that.
expensive, bureaucratic nightmare. If you want to give money for a good cause, you want people to have jobs, you should be talking about free market. You should be talking about charity like you were talking about. And this is where I think people just haven't thought these ideas through. Because it sounds good. I remember when I was in about 3rd grade, I thought, oh, it sounds really good. Just give all the money to government and it can be our big charity engine. Isn't that pretty? You know, it's just easier than thinking about, I want to give money to this charity or that charity. And the fact of the matter is, none of us are going to have money to give to any charities because government is taking so much of it.
They've taken it, they've mismanaged it, the fraud, everything that's involved in it. They can't seem to manage anything. So why do you just give them more and more and more power? The American people have to wake up. They have to see it and say, no, enough is enough. I mean, thankfully we have a few people who are fighting on that side, but you know, it's becoming more and more difficult.
And I would really ask women, you really want to hawk your dignity for $15 in free birth control? I mean, is that really where women in this country have come?
That's exactly right. That's what I'm saying. They're demeaning you. They're humiliating you.
Are you not worth more than $15 free birth control?
Exactly.
And by the way, there are charities for that.
That's
not
right.
the job of government.
That's exactly right. That's exactly
And
right.
charities, differently from government, they have to look that woman in the eye. And they have to say to her, you know, what is the impact on your life? Because we do have things like STDs and other problems that result from overuse of those sorts of things. And if a charity's handing it out, they might be asking the woman, well, what are you doing? Should you be thinking about this? Do you know about this? You know, do you know about the risks of sex with birth control, for example?
Well, that's what they claim Planned Parenthood does, though. But they don't talk about the rest of the stuff that Planned Parenthood does.
Yeah, well, and we've learned, I mean, their own studies by the Guttmacher Institute have proven that when Planned Parenthood goes into schools and talks to young girls about sex, that the teen pregnancy and abortion rates, by the way, go up, and those girls are forever screwed up. Abortion screws people up mentally. It is a horrible atrocity being implemented on our women today in a lie, and it's genocide. It's plain simple genocide.
Well, it is, because it's like I said before. I think that most people have that spark inside of them, that they know the difference between right and wrong, no matter if they're even young. And if they go and they have an abortion because that everybody else is, I mean, like this girl that filmed her own abortion or whatever it was, you know, you think about that, yes, it's going to leave a scar. Maybe 10 or 20 years from now, she's going to look back on that and think,
I guarantee.
Oh, what have I done?
I guarantee you some psychologist is already dealing with her issues, and there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And I think the message to children is horrible. You're expendable.
Oh, you're expendable, you're disposable.
The message to women is horrible. When you screw up, let us just cut you up.
That's right.
And God knows what other side effects come from that. And the message, of course, to a whole generation of kids, we wonder why they have these existential issues. What does my life really mean? Well, when we've aborted an entire generation, by the way, disproportionately women, little girls, and by the way, disproportionately minorities.
I know.
And then the racists are supposed to be on our side of the aisle? I'm confused.
I have a real uphill battle because Hollywood is so liberal, and the conservative movement has to be underground. It literally lives in fear. So it's very hard. Many of my fans, however, are very like-minded to me. They're very...
I'm so glad to hear that.
They are.
Yeah,
They're
that's
on my
nice.
side. They agree. You know, all my Twitter feeds, when I post an article, they all, you know, yes, we love that. That's great. So the fan base that's there is definitely on my side, and they're a big support system. And I can't, if I had $1 for every single person who said to me, you know what, thank you for being one of the voices. Thank you for being out there. You know, I'd never have to work again, because that many people. But that is why I feel so good about this. That's why I feel so good about us writing this book, because we're just going to get more and more people saying, you know what, thank you guys for being a voice, for not being afraid, for not sitting back. But yes, Hollywood is going to be a huge uphill battle. It really is. It's going to be very difficult because they just live in another world. They don't live in the real world with real Americans. They don't understand real Americans. They just don't. Even though many of them are from little towns, you know, in the Midwest or something about Hollywood when they get there, it's sort of like Washington. When the people get to Washington, they just become somebody else. And they get so caught up in the narcissism and all of that they forget.
The addiction, adulation.
Yes, the addiction. They forget who they are. And then they forget who the people that they're writing material for and they're molding the future. They forget that, which is what I saw back in the 50s and 60s, the early 60s. That was the most important thing to television and film, was to present a good message, a positive message, a family message, a message that you could end the evening and you could take away from it. You know, my life is it's not great, but I could make it better.
Yeah.
You know, that was the message that you were left with. And, you know, today Hollywood is they're just skewed in a different way.
For me, what most of my people and the people that follow me on Facebook and Twitter and are Politics fans, they really, really want to know how to get more involved. They want to find out what they can do about things like Common Core. If they're against something, they want steps to know, well, what can I do to fix this? I mean, what's the first thing that I do? And what I keep telling people over and over is just don't be afraid. Just speak. Just take baby steps. Speak out. Write. If you're a good writer, write. Find an outlet to write. If you're able, run for office. Run for something local. Get involved. Don't be afraid. Read your children's textbooks. Don't just let them do homework without knowing what they're actually learning in school. Just be involved. So that's the main thing that I've been getting is just how can I take my passion a step further than just tweeting and posting things on Facebook. What else can I do?
Yeah, I would say that, you know, most of the people that come to me and ask me questions, they want to know the psychological angle. How can we change the thinking of people in this country? And I have to tell you, as someone who was well indoctrinated in our brick and mortar indoctrination systems, I don't know all the answers. I do know that thought changing is very important, and I think that a lot of that can come out of Hollywood, and people that we're close to in Hollywood are working on that, and I'm very encouraged by that. A lot of those same people, though, are concerned that maybe we're too far gone. I hear that a lot. Are we too far gone?
I do too.
And I believe no, because I believe still in that which is American exceptionalism. I'm not afraid to say it. I'll never apologize for it. And I think that if we cause everyone to really stop and think things through to their end, that we can get to that truth, that people can understand it. And as it does continue to affect people, you know, I would say that my peer group is moms of young families, and what they want to know is where do you start? You know, where do you start to get involved? Some of the things you said, you know, writing, reading lots of books, that's important.
Oh, yeah.
If you hate reading books, get books on tape and listen to them while you're in your minivan or Range Rover or driving your kids here and there, whatever. And so I think that educating yourself is key. Surrounding yourself with people, an army of sorts that really understands you, is willing to sort of help you get that philosophical underpinning that is so critical to having a world view, and continuing to develop that. And there's always time for that. And I think that, and then teaching it to your children. Raising our children, letting our children prioritize soccer practice over understanding history. Big mistake. Big mistake. And we're going to have to correct some of those things because the schools sure as heck aren't doing it for us.
They don't want to teach history anymore. One thing that stood out to me this past week was the father who stood up in the school, was at a board meeting, I think, because pornography was being read, or his daughter was supposed to read this book. And this man stood up, and it was very polite and very nice. He just went over his time limit or whatever. What I would like to
And
see...
so they arrested him.
They arrested him, put him in handcuffs. But what I would like to see is, one by one, maybe it's the Hollywood in me, but I'd like to see one by one the parents stand up with this man and say, this is unacceptable, take me as well. This is where we have to get to. This is where we have to be, because so many people are afraid. They don't want to go to jail. There is this threat hanging over our heads that if we say something wrong, if we say something in the privacy of our own home,
we're going to get audited, we're going to go to
that's
jail.
right,
I mean, all these...
because we're being targeted. But this man stood up, and I've seen him on a couple of shows, and I respect him so much for standing up and saying, this is unacceptable. I do not want my daughter to read this. But if more people had stood up and said, take me as well.
The thing about that man too, you could tell that wasn't something that he felt comfortable doing.
No.
It's like
it was
what
out
we've
of his
been saying.
comfort zone.
All of this
yes,
is out of our comfort zone.
It is.
But we're realizing, if we don't stand up, who will? And you've already mentioned that, but the Holocaust. What was her name? And
Kitty Worthman.
Yeah, tell us the whole story, because it's my favorite.
It's in the book, actually, so people might just have to read it.
Because it's beautiful. It's so important.
It is important. I had nightmares after I heard her for a long time, and it was a pivotal, really light bulb moment in my life, too. For the moms out there that think they're doing their kids a service by just driving them where they want to go and being their little personal slaves to their children's future, I'm here to tell you there is no future.
Oh.
If your children aren't educated, and if you're not educated and engaged, teach your children activism. Activism is a really cool thing. And I think one of the things that you said that I think is so critical, and I just want to encourage moms and dads out there, take a risk every day.
That's right. That's right.
Try to call somebody and get a hold of them and talk to them with their voice. Try to text somebody and see if you can get a response, or maybe a Twitter DM or a Facebook DM from somebody that you really want to understand. Say, I want to hear back from you. I don't want your form letter from your staffer. I want to hear back from you.
Right.
Because the day of participating in politics by sending postcards, or I need to tell people, as the wife of a former senator from Missouri, I need to say that those are tally marks. Like, you need to understand, no matter how impassioned your plea, no matter how articulate your phone call, it is a tally mark with a staffer who then, if there are a lot of tally marks, right, takes it to that person. So I've always said this. We've gotten very involved in a campaign in California for governor, the three of us, and it's not the popular campaign. It's the right campaign.
That's right.
And we did it not because we were sure he would win or because the establishment and the money was behind him, but we did it because it was the right thing to do.
That's right.
Because as California goes, we three Californians know this, the rest of the country goes. What happens in California does not stay in California.
That's right.
We live in California because we want to be culture warriors. We want to fight on the very battlefront of culture. That's why we're there. It isn't just the pretty weather. And so for those who...
But it helps.
That weather does help.
And we have Disneyland.
We do, yeah. And great ice cream and things, but and beaches. But the thing about it is that I think parents need to take a little risk every day to do something they haven't ever done before.
Right.
And so that every day, your tally mark at the end of that day is, I took a risk for my children's future today. What was it? Ask yourself at the end of the day, because otherwise it's so all-encompassing. If you think, how am I going to go change the world? That's an impossible thought.
Right.
Each of us started, I remember sitting in my bedroom, a little end part of our bedroom that was like a little settee area when I had a bigger house in Missouri, because we couldn't have that now in California. But I remember sitting there with my husband saying, I want to write a book, but I have no idea like where to start. But I really have a lot I want to say. This is my last book. And going from that point, that was only 3 years ago, just every day I forced myself to put that little tally mark every day to say, what did I do today? And it isn't sending a postcard or writing a letter or making a phone call to your congressman. It truly is taking a risk that is outside, that feels uncomfortable, that takes you out of your comfort zone.
That's right.
In a real way. You should be shaking every day.
Yeah.
At one point, you should be shaking.
That's exactly right. That is what I did when I re-entered the entertainment business after my childhood career. I did that. I made a vow every day. I'm going to do something to further my career. I'm going to do something. I'm going to make a call. I'm going to do something. I'm going to go to class. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to learn something. 365 days later, you've got a year full of things that you did. And you can see how far you have
can watch
progressed.
that pass. Yeah, it's important to
It
keep
is
that record.
so important.
Because, our lives are very public. Not all lives will be this public. But, the moment that I set that course, I want to write a book. I got a radio show right
There
after
you
that.
go.
Now get to do television.
Yep.
And I think about that course in just a couple of years, God, I have to say, has orchestrated this entire thing. And there's nothing better than feeling like you are being used by God himself. I mean, that's the coolest feeling in the world.
And guided.
Yes.
And you know something, that spark comes to you because I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know. And I prayed and I said, please guide me. I'm leaving it up to you. Please, it's in your hands. And I knew what to do the next day. That's my story. I knew what to do. And it empowers you so much when you do things and you make progress. It is. It's very empowering. And I think that if we have a army, soldiers out there of women that really, really get empowered and do this, we can make a difference in the schools, in the culture, in so many different ways. We can.
And I think women much more than men. And I respect and love men to death, but I think women are the ones that are really going to turn things around for our country because we're the mamas. And Palin said it, we're the mama grizzlies. And we're the ones, when our families are threatened, you better watch out.
And our families
I will
are
get every
threatened.
weapon I need to save my family.
Absolutely.
I will kill someone with my bare hands. For my family.
Watch out, Anne Marie.
I will cut you.
You know what I do? I kind of like to pick a woman in history. Like back, I liked Abigail Adams. And I want to pick a woman in history and I want to say, okay, this is what she did and this is what she overcame. I don't have any of those problems, you know?
Right.
I have none of that, but look what she did. And I pick a woman and I say, okay, that's what I'm going to try to strive for. And I think most women should maybe do that, you know, pick somebody, a role model.
Morgan Brittany.
Oh,
Exactly. That's what I was thinking when you said that.
I wanted Morgan.
Yeah.
well, you know what? If I can, which is some of the stuff that I do when I give speeches or I go to schools, I do have young girls who say, if I get into the business, I want to pattern my career like you did.
They should.
I don't want to sell
should.
out. I don't want to do things that I don't feel comfortable with, because that's my message really.
Absolutely.
Is that if it's not in your heart and you're not comfortable and you can't live with it, don't be coerced into doing something you don't want to do, because you will regret it forever.
But Morgan she's a freak of Hollywood culture. You really are.
There's a few of us. There's a few of us.
I don't even know real people who are as normal and
No, I don't
well
either.
balanced as you.
No, I don't either.
Normal as in not
And I know a lot of
movie
Hollywood
stars.
people, and most of them are just not as grounded.
I should be so
You know
screwed
what?
up,
This
you
is-
guys.
you should.
I should be so
Grounded.
screwed up.
You're grounded in your own tally mark of taking the best of the industry that you have given so much to.
Write that down.
Learn
Grounded in your
from-
tally mark.
Grounded in my tally mark. I know,
I'm telling you right now, I think that's a
It
valuable
works,
thing.
and nobody's said anything about it yet. They haven't.
I'm gonna figure that. I'm gonna unpack that a little bit over the next.
But a
week.
lot of the other thing that I've come to know is that you can't beat yourself up over a lot of things either, because you have there's a lot of outside influences, and things may not go the way you want them to, and sometimes the family, there's issues and there's problems and you got to deal with it, and you can't beat yourself up over it. You know, you do the best you can and you pray and you say, I know things are going to get better and there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I think a lot of women end up doing that as well. They beat themselves up over a
I
lot
think
of
women
things.
need to know that too. That,
Yeah.
that we don't know everything.
We're not, no,
We
and
have to
we're not.
study.
I signed on because
we
you
don't-
guys knew everything.
But we
Oh my
have
gosh.
to study, and we have to read, and we have to learn, and we have to be on our toes.
all the
But we
time.
make mistakes. Lord have
Yes.
mercy. I have made some of this
Big
dumbest
mis-
mistakes. I've
me
said
too.
Some of this
Me
stupidest
too.
stuff. That's normal, and that's what happens in real life too. So you're going to
Yep.
do the same thing in the political world. You're just not knowing every issue 100%.